everybody. Welcome back to another midweek episode. So earlier today in town, I was grabbing some coffee from Allie B's. By the way, the Toronto, so good. I highly recommend it. I don't know if you've gone out lately to get coffee, but in many coffee establishments, when it comes to paying, they'll turn the register around to you and they'll ask you if you want to give a tip. And some people believe that tipping has gotten out of control. Like it gives an option of a 20% or even a 30 or even a 40% tip. And it's like, that's crazy. Some of you can remember when a 10% tip for going out to eat was considered generous. And you know, this conversation around tipping makes me think about what it means for us as Christians to reach a tipping point in generosity. You know, that phrase tipping point, it's about this critical mass that builds momentum until there's a breakthrough. And sadly, we live in a culture right now that is more generous when it comes to tipping for coffee than when it comes to charitable giving. You know, charitable giving is down in the United States from a 3% average to a nearly 2% average. That's pathetic. That's pitiful. But what does the Bible call us to? The Bible calls us to be joyful, generous givers. And how do we get to that tipping point? I believe that we reach a tipping point in generosity as we learn gratitude. I mean, we understand this when it comes to giving a tip at an establishment, whether it's a coffee shop or a restaurant. Like if the service is good, if you appreciate it, then you're more generous in tipping. And here's what I believe. God is so incredibly good to us. And when we pause, as we do this week to celebrate Thanksgiving, but when we pause and allow God's Spirit to stir up in us those moments and memories of where God has been good to us, where He has come through on His promises, it gives us the confidence that He's going to continue to come through on His promises, which is why the Bible invites us to be generous. Not just a 10% tithe that we strive for, but above and beyond that, to be generous to the work that God is doing in and through the church and in the world. And so my challenge to you is to be generous. When you go to get your coffee, and when they flip that screen around and ask you if you want to give a tip, I challenge you, give an outrageous tip. Whether they deserve it or not, just choose to be generous and see what that does in your heart. And then look for ways in the church that you attend, in the relationship that you have with others around you, especially as we enter into this Christmas season. There are so many needs, there are so many opportunities. Just look for ways to be generous. What would it mean for us in the church to reach a tipping point in generosity? Jesus has done so much for us. So thanks for joining me today. Enjoy your coffee. Enjoy the time that you're able to spend celebrating Thanksgiving, and continue to be generous as God has been to us. And I'll talk to you again next week.